Hi, everyone!
Hi! Welcome back!
Yes.
To our 10 foot by 10 foot pit of despair and loveliness.
Yes.
Well, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you very much.
We gave a lot of thought between Wednesday and now about which show we were going to do, and we decided to do Hello, Dolly.
Yes, hello, Dolly.
Yep. So we're going to talk about that today, but kind of before we get started, we want to talk about a few things.
Yes.
So I guess a couple days ago or yesterday, all the days are blending together with this pandemic.
Yes.
There was World Theater Day,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what you guys were seeing about it, but I kind of saw very maudlin, very sad things about the theater.
Yes.
Which is understandable. We all really miss doing what we love to do, getting on stage, performing, being there in front of a live audience and not just like a live studio audience on the other side of a computer screen. But I feel like theater will persevere no matter what. And I'm very optimistic about this. And I think it might take a bunch of different forms. But while we're kind of talking about it and things that you can do to help theaters. Some of our favorite theaters we'll kind of mention here. And if you feel like you want to donate some money or see what they kind of have to offer in your own area for theater performance or performers like us, we were just going to highly encourage everybody to just kind of take a quick peek at stuff.
Yeah.
We've performed in a lot of local groups throughout the years. One of them I mentioned last time was the Naples Players in Naples, Florida. I like them a lot. Here in Charlottesville, we work with Live Arts.
Yes.
There's the Guerrilla Theater Project. There's a whole bunch of different actors and performers here. And then in Blacksburg in Southwest Virginia, there are things like Showtimers out in Roanoke. There is SME, Summer Musical Enterprise, New River Stage. There's a lot of local theater. So I'm sure that, you know, if you're seeing us, you probably know a local theater person who's also kind of going through what we're doing. And, you know, please feel free to look for those opportunities just because we want to keep this thing going, and we want to have something to come back to. Glenn would like to have a job after this is done.
Oh, yes. That would be very nice. And, you know, it's one of those things, a lot of what we kind of saw people talking about for World Theater Day was talking about how sad it is that it's a day to celebrate this art form, and right now the theaters are dark, and there was sort of this feeling of, like, the art form is dying and everything. It's like, well, theater... I mean, literally, people have driven a stake through the heart of theater before, and it survives. You know, I'd rather not go to doing, like, shows in parking lots for pennies, but
you know, shows in parlors like Jane Austen, I feel like this is kind of an incarnation of this.
And if theater does have to go to parking lots for pennies, it's going to go to parking lots for pennies, and it's going to rebuild. It's going to be back where it was.
And just to kind of add on to this as like a little button, we were watching theater pieces at home. I sat and I watched the whole Quarantine Bake Off, which was really fun.
Yes.
It was a bunch of undergrads at the Guthrie Theater in Minnesota. And they had to read through, oh my gosh, something like 4,000 plays and pick 11 of them. And for 3 hours, they all Zoomed in, Skyped in, and performed. And despite technical difficulties, despite everything else, it was a really fun experience. And I highly recommend if you look for Quarantine Bake Off on YouTube, go watch it. I think that they're going to try to put the minutes up for each show if you wanted to watch one show, not another show. But interesting, liked it. And then together we watched the Folger Two River Theater production of Aaron Posner and Teller from Penn and Teller's Macbeth.
Yes.
Which was for free on the Folger's website, which was great.
Yes.
And Glenn was in Macbeth, so.
So I got to look and be like, hey, that scene with the two characters talking about what just happened in Act 1, I was in that scene. And my second big scene, they completely cut from that production of the show. They didn't do that scene at all. So,
but, you know, if you guys have any recommendations, please let us know in the comments. We'd really love to know what you guys are doing and watching, aside from the QuaranStream, of course. But overall, we do think theater will survive, theater will persevere, as long as there are people who need to tell stories and share those stories with other people. And we're really happy to found this medium to share stories today with you.
It's the foundation of theater is 2 boards and a passion. As long as you've got passionate artists out there, it's alive and well.
Yep. So
that's one thing. And then another thing is, do we want to talk about our designs?
Oh yeah, let me move myself.
Oh yes. So
there we go.
We have merch.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I have to move out of the way of the image.
Yes. So this is a nice big thing here. Let's see now. So this is Virginia is for social distancing.
Yeah.
Which
Stay at
is
home.
Yeah, stay at home. Stay 6 feet apart.
Because we've been going out lately and it's not been happening. And not that we want to go out, but I feel like many of you, we have planned for 3 weeks of indoors. Glenn was home for 2 weeks. I was still working. I came home this past week. And now we're out of food.
Yes.
So we had to go get food. And despite people wearing bandanas or something on their face, they're still getting very close. And I think we're really nervous because we've been very lucky here in Central Virginia. We have about 7 cases, but it could be worse. And we want Virginians to stay inside and protect their neighbors and protect themselves. And we don't know why we're still seeing a ton of people. My theory is because I work for the hospital. There's a lot of people who work for the hospital, and they might just all be out. But right now we're not on a lockdown the way like Ohio or North Carolina is. And I think it's just a little bit eerie, so we wanted to kind of like create something fun, something to wear in your Zoom meetings as suggested by Glen's brother.
Yes.
That you can go ahead and tell everybody it's like whether you were just introverted and do not like touching people, or if you would like to wear this during all of your professional pandemic meetings, we highly recommend it, and it's a really fun and easy way for you to wear something that you would enjoy and also support the show.
And like Jenny just said in the chat, considering her first name is really Virginia, this also works for her. So if you're a Virginia or you know a Virginia, makes a great gift. Yeah. And it's on Redbubble, so it's on literally everything as you're seeing in the graphics, not just shirts, but giant scarf, tote bag, all of those things.
And we're debating to maybe do a giveaway or something.
Yeah.
We're going to order some logo shirts on our own. We're going to order some of these shirts. We might come up with a typecast mom and internet dad type of shirt. We're going to kind of keep coming up with stuff, and we'd like to give some things away, especially like if it is just our loyal viewers, we'll just kind of shower you with some gifts.
Yes. And we've got... let's transition out of the shirt images there. Yes. So Bri can get back in her spot. It's not taken by merchandise anymore. Bristol is in the house, in the chat room there. Yeah, so that takes care of our merch. Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Because we can't just do a link in a live stream. If you're watching us live, links for this and our logo shirt are directly below our live stream, or should be. And if you're watching this later on YouTube when we are not live, we are recorded and uploaded, you'll be able to find that in the description as well.
All right. So without further ado,
we're
going to remember Hello Dolly.
Hello Dolly.
The reason why we're remembering Hello Dolly is, number one, I thought it was really prescient right now.
Yeah.
Talking about these stimulus packages and kind of what the moral of the show was. But I was in this my senior year in high school, which is 1998, 1999. I played Ernestina Money, which is not a character anybody knows from the movie or the show. Like I said, aside from being typecast as mom, I am very character actress driven. So if you can talk like this, then you get to play all the really fun plots. So that was essentially Ernestina Money. Really Harley Quinn type of voice.
Yes.
Who is basically there to show Horace Vandergelder what a nice lady Dolly is and what horrible dating options there are out in New York. So I figured this might be really fun for us to go ahead and talk about. And Glenn, I think, again, has just kind of seen the movie. We'll eventually get to musicals Glenn was in.
Yes, well, there's very few of those, honestly. But the movie, again, last time I think I said, Bye Bye Birdie, the last time I watched it, I was like 16 years old. And this one, I don't think I've seen since, I turned 10. So this is like way back in my childhood. You might be hearing Bri like monologue on this a lot more than hearing me like hash out the plot. I'll probably chime in every now and then with something like, "Oh, that's the bit that's in Wall-E."
Yes.
Yes,
That's the most famous part, is
Yes.
that there is that moment of Put On Your Sunday Clothes, which is the big famous song that appeared as the one piece of video that Wall-E could find of humans.
Yes.
And then when he meets the real humans, he's like, oh God, what happened?
Nobody is putting on their Sunday clothes.
But anyway, so to start off the show, I tend to remember that it starts, we are in Yonkers, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Horace Vandergelder is an older gentleman who runs a, I guess 5 and 10 store or a feed store. He runs some sort of business. He has 2 shop helpers, Cornelius and Barnaby, and Cornelius was very famously played by Tommy Tune, who had allegedly went to our high school and was like a big deal, and so we're like, oh! So it was very exciting. And it starts off saying, call on Dolly, dee. And then I always say, I don't remember it. So it's something, 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 and something. I wish I remembered it. I didn't come on till Act 2.
Yes.
I had a really great theater director in high school who was like, guys, you just cannot be like, bullshit, 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 my line.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had heeded that advice better. I always remember it's something, it's like, the kind of thing your sister might understand. I don't know what the lyrics are. I'm so sorry, Jerry Herman. But essentially that opens it up, is the whole group of Yonkerians, Yonkervillians, sing about this wonderful lady named Dolly, and she's coming to town and she solves everybody's problems. That's her job. The side story is Cornelius and Barnaby are 2 young men, like high school age or college age, who knows, because this is the turn of last century. It's like 1890 something or 1910 something. It's right around there in America. And they want to go out and have fun and meet girls and do more than just work for a living.
Yeah.
So they have a little song where it's like, out there.
And is this it's an adventure, Barnaby?
Yes. Close your eyes and seek, listen, Barnaby, listen, Barnaby. So they have a big number where they are going to actually shut down the store early because Horace Vandergelder is going into town. And they're like, oh, he'll never know if we shut it down early. So they're going to actually go into town as well. And this is kind of like right before... what is it? They all get on the train. And this is where, very famously, Dolly has a bit of patter. That's literally, like, I wish I could remember it, but she's talking to Horace Vandergelder's, like, daughter who's going to elope with the guy that she's been dating for a little bit, and she's going to go into town. And she's like, pick up the suitcases and put them on, and this. And so that's really like kind of the start of Put On Your Sunday Clothes.
Yeah.
There's also 2 more characters that I haven't mentioned yet. Everybody's introduced in like the first 20 minutes, so I feel like this is going to take a little bit of time. And there's Irene Malloy and Minnie. I forgot her last name. If you remember her last name, you let me know. But Irene and Minnie, Minnie works for Irene, and Irene runs a hat shop. And it was really well, not famously for all of you, but Live Arts did a version of The Matchmaker where they inserted, which is basically the same story, if you don't know. The Matchmaker is the exact same story of Hello Dolly. They inserted Come On Eileen, but did Come On Irene to try to convince her to go out, right?
Yeah.
So I like that. I was like, anything that's like 80s music and musicals, I'm sold. I'm in. So anyway, all these people are all going into town, and you think, well, gosh, New York City, even back then, is huge, so it's fine. They're never going to meet.
Right.
Well, this is musical theater, honey. Of course they're all going to meet. Of course they're all going to go into New York City and have like this huge experience together. The next kind of big part of Act 1, which I'm just going to kind of like skip forward a little bit, is before the parade passes by. which is a very famous Barbra Streisand song.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of like coined it when the movie kind of came out, and that's kind of been like her big claim to fame, and I think that's why a lot of people really know the show Hello Dolly, probably who are of my age. There's been a lot of really famous Dollys. I always had the Carol Channing soundtrack when I was younger. And then, of course, the movie. And I, of course, follow everybody on Broadway on Twitter. And so been following Carolee Carmello as she's been touring the most modern version of Hello Dolly kind of around. There's also a very, very famous all-black cast, which was, I think, really a big to-do on Broadway in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And that was very popular, and people really liked it. So anyway, that's Act 1. Is everybody needs to go ahead and get to New York City, and Dolly's going to make it all happen. She's going to take care of everything. Mm. Why I really wanted to kind of talk about Dolly today is she has a very famous line that money should be like manure. You need to spread it around. You need to put it in the hands of people. And I think that that's kind of what we might be experiencing now in this pandemic. I don't know. I was like, I was telling Glenn earlier, it's a bit like Comrade Dolly. Mm-hmm. But I mean, she's not necessarily wrong. Horace can't hold on to all of his money and to create a world that he wants to inhabit, he wants to live in. He can't be so tight-fisted with his employees and his daughter and all these other things. He has to be able to open up his heart and open up his wallet and make sure that Yonkers becomes the town he wants to live in.
Yeah, and that's a very important theme for this period in time and everything, with a lot of what we're seeing of people not really realizing how precarious our economy genuinely was. Even though the numbers have been out there for a long time, even though the studies have been out there for a long time, the idea of you've got to spread around money in order to make things actually work and make things actually move is striking people as kind of odd and weird and new. Yeah. So, Comrade Dolly, I think, is a very good idea. I've got a quick question before we get back into the plot some more.
We're going to Act 2 and my bits.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of the different productions that have been done of Hello Dolly and everything. Has there ever been someone on Broadway, some Broadway producer or something, who genuinely did, let's do Hello Dolly with Dolly Parton?
I don't think so.
Because I remember as a kid, because I was used to seeing Dolly Parton records in my parents' collection, looking at the Hello Dolly record and wondering why Hello Dolly wasn't Dolly Parton.
Yep.
And I mean, the marketing practically writes itself. Broadway says, Hello Dolly. Yeah. Dolly Parton. And she was going through that period in the 80s when she was really pushing herself as an actress. Yeah.
Well, and at least she got 9 to 5.
Yeah, she did get 9 to 5.
So she does have a Broadway show, it's just not Hello Dolly.
Yes.
So anyway, there's a very lovely song in there called Ribbons Down My Back, which Irene sings about being, she's very successful in her career, but she wants to be in love.
Yeah.
And that's very, very popular, very famous. When we kind of get to Act 2, this is where I kind of remember my bits, because I was in a very short amount of time. Right before Act 1, during Parade Passes By, that's when I'm first seen, and I'm wearing, a really tacky, orange and yellow and red number. And then you see me in the beginning of Act 2, because the beginning of Act 2 is the big famous one where we all think of Louis Armstrong and Barbra Streisand coming down the stairs. We're at that big fancy restaurant, right? Mm. So I was told, because we needed to move set pieces, I got to ad-lib lines. Don't test me, I will ad-lib all day.
This is a very dangerous person to ask to ad-lib lines, yes.
I could go all day. So I got to be like, "Whoa, I never heard of Roysters Rockefeller. I'm ordering 16. And I would just read the whole menu. And I was basically just keep going until they told us not to go anymore. So I'm on a date with Horace, and Dolly comes in, and he's really like, "Oh no, Dolly, I don't want this lady." Now, I guess I should probably go back a little bit. Dolly actually, I apparently know her, and she fixed me up on this date so that he would run into her arms, because Dolly does everything. Dolly's a fixer. And so anyway, she ends up going on the date with Horace and buys makes him buy dinner and sings the song with the waiters where it's all the hello Dolly, well hello Dolly.
The very famous Louis Armstrong
Yes.
number and everything. Yeah.
Yep. I tried to find a feather headdress. Did not have one. I have bunny ears, but it's not the same. Basically, after that, it goes into Cornelius and Barnaby are on dates with Irene and Minnie, and they're kind of out in the park. And if you remember what happens, I forget what happens, but they get arrested. It's like 1912 or something like that. So, I mean, who knows? It could just be like, I saw an ankle. I don't know when they all get arrested. But the next scene I'm in is all of a sudden we're in a courtroom scene.
Yeah.
And it's Barnaby and Cornelius saying, Your Honor, we were just young men. We just want to be in love. And don't you believe in love? And they sing a very beautiful song where it's it only takes a moment. And so very, very pretty. Of course, the judge is like, yes, no, of course. And of course, this is another bit where I was not... 17-year-old Gabrielle was not getting enough attention. So I literally had like a 6-foot-long handkerchief that I just kept, oh my God, and pass it to the next person. And so then the whole front row of the courtroom all had like my handkerchief that like came out of my bodice.
I think that's more on the fault. That's more the fault of the props person who gave you that. Than
Who said someone gave it to me? I just brought it.
Okay, all right.
That's on brand for me. So anyway, courtroom scene happens, and now everybody's going back to Yonkers. I think Horace and Dolly had this big fight, and so he's not necessarily sure, is she in or is she out, but he's really starting to take her lessons to heart. And then he gets back, and he realizes, like, before they split up, it's, so wave your little hand and whisper so long, dearie. You ain't gonna see me anymore, right? Really fun. And it's the only reason why I'm thinking of it is because of the blocking line I remembered where you can snuggle up to your cash register. It's a little lumpy, but it rings, right? So anyway, he looks at his cash register and rings. And, oh, I miss Dolly. And then she shows up. And of course, that's the end.
Yeah.
And they usually do a big finale of either something like, it's usually Hello Dolly, but it could be a big medley of like, you know, put on your Sunday clothes before the parade, like any big famous thing. And it's usually whatever vehicle the lady playing Dolly sings the best, or like they had Bette Midler, they had Burnett Peters, whichever one is their song. They're going to sing that as like the very kind of like last thing. And that's really my only criticism with Hello Dolly is I love it as a show. I think it has a great message. It's so many famous songs. Like, I mean, Jerry Herman, like, amazing. Like, it's just such a part of the zeitgeist in America, even 60 years later. But for me, as a high school student doing it, it's really hard. It's not really an ensemble piece. Like I said, I don't remember a lot because I was only in it very briefly. Yes. And so I always like things, if you are doing them for community theater or for high school students, do them so that everybody has something to do, so they're not inventing bizarre handkerchiefs and menu reading routines, because, like, as a senior in high school, that was always, like, really sad for me. It's like, the girl playing Dolly was amazing and fantastic and totally, like worthy of the role, and, like, I understand why they did it, but still, it's like, there were so many of us, I think, our senior year that were just like, we're not doing anything, because it is the story of Dolly and Horace, and if you're not Dolly or Horace, you're kind of like, sitting in the back.
and I agree with you, Jenny. Now I'm going to have to go find Hello Dolly so we can watch it.
Yes. Totally. Yeah. And like I said, I was like, it's so relevant now.
It's a very relevant show, and it's a show that I don't think a lot of community theaters consider all that often.
Yeah.
In large part because what you were just saying about it isn't really an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
It is something where you need someone in your community already who is going to be Dolly, who's going to be Horace. before you throw that onto your schedule.
Well, and in the beginning, I did mention a lot of leads. So, like, for sure, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was a named person. I was a lead, but I didn't have, I mean, I had a song, but it was a bad song. Like, I mean, it's not a real song. They just, like, sing Sweet Rosie O'Grady. And as a 17-year-old in the 1990s, I don't know that song. So, literally, I was like, Sweet Rosie O'Grady, my sweet Irish rose. I don't know if that's right. If I am right, put it in the comments. If I'm wrong, put it in the... Who knows? But that's what I sang. That was my song.
Is it... Anybody out there who knows what the song actually is it the song that Bugs Bunny would sing every now and then when he was, you know... when he's starting down the street? I seem to remember something like, she's the daughter of Rosie O'Grady.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't even know if I've got the name right.
Yeah,
So.
we have no clue. This is the fun thing about remembering things.
Yes.
Is things that we've never even learned we don't remember either.
Yes.
But definitely watch the show. I mean, I think I think a lot of my grandparents coming to this country at the turn of last century and how we're experiencing a lot of the same things that they experienced. And so I think Hello Dolly being a piece that took place in the early 1900s or late 1800s in New York City is something that it's becoming relevant again, is how can money help people? And how can opening up our hearts and caring about other people change our lives for the better? And just being willing to be brave enough, because even Dolly in the show, I think, talks about, you know, she's Dolly Levi in the show. So she's a widow. She was married once before. And she talks about how hard it is to want to love somebody else again. So despite her being so brave and so encouraging to everybody else, like, yes, go marry your love. Yes, go, you know, have a date in a park. Go spend your money. She talks about it's really hard. And that's another thing that I think that's hard for 17-year-olds to get.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, having been a young person who has to play moms and widows and stuff like that, that's really hard for most younger people to understand.
Yes.
So that's Hello Dolly, as best I can remember it. Definitely go check it out. Go rent the Barbra Streisand one. It's going to be something fun that you can go ahead and watch. If you can find any old versions, I know Broadway HD, there's a lot of really fun things coming up. So if you can find, you know, the all-black cast or Carol Channing, the original Dolly, highly, highly recommend. I think you'll have a good time.
Yes, and see, those are the things that stick in my mind. For some reason, the line, "It's an adventure, Barnaby," stuck in my head. Because I brought that up as soon as you got into that section of it. The soundtrack album, the Louis Armstrong singing Hello Dolly, and Carol Channing singing Hello Dolly.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and I think Carol Channing stuck in my head because I grew up at a time when the Disney Channel was still doing like free preview weeks and things like that, back before they became basic cable. And it felt like every time there was a free preview, they either had a new Carol Channing concert to put on, or they would have Carol Channing featured in one of these big concerts with a bunch of celebrities. And anytime you saw her, no matter what the set list was or anything, somewhere in there was Hello Dolly and Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend.
Yes, which is her other big show.
Right.
Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I highly, highly recommend it. I think the other thing that I can recommend the Barbra Streisand one is, of course, Tommy Tune does his choreography. Go watch it. I think Michael Crawford is in it. Who's the Phantom of the Opera. So I don't know. Go watch a version of Hello Dolly. Get back to us about what we got right, what we got wrong, or what we really missed that you like hope that we would have talked about. But because I was too stuck up in my little bit part and I was not watching the rest of the show, totally glossed over and forgot because I was probably backstage reading or knitting or doing homework or whatever I did as a senior in high school. It was like 20 years ago. Doing my best. But that's kind of it. I mean, like, I hope that y'all enjoyed it. We're going to do another show on Wednesday. We're going to kind of think about what we're going to do at this point. And then I think we're going to start changing format a little bit and trying to do some pitches, try
Yeah.
to guess what the show is.
Yeah.
I kind of told Glenn, I said, it's going to be like when Larry Wilmore changed his format from like when he had debates between like pro-life and pro-choice and pro-vaccinate and anti-vaccinate, and then he just decided, oh, I'm just going to have a round table of all my writers.
Yeah.
And we're like, if you don't know that reference, The Nightly Show is really great. We really liked it a lot. We liked it when they changed format, so maybe you'll like our
Yes.
new format better. We don't want it to get stale. We're here to
Right.
try to like bring a smile to your face and entertain you. Also,
And reach out to folks that we know and love as
Yes.
well, and say,
Also-
hey, hi.
Glenn's birthday's on Monday.
Yes, that's true.
So we should all sing happy birthday.
Oh my.
Happy birthday to you. Now in the public domain. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Glenn. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for tuning in. Jenny says thanks for doing these. It's fun listening.
Oh, good.
So thank you. We're very happy that you're enjoying listening to us. And Jenny, you're always incredibly supportive of
And
us and
positive.
everything.
We
and
love you.
We love you. All
And we've
right.
done it again. We've hit around a 30-minute mark. I'm proud of us. We don't want to take up your whole day. We know you got stuff to do. Please be safe out there when you go out. Like I said, we know people aren't really abiding by the PPE and the social distancing. Please buy
Yeah.
a social distancing shirt to show people you mean business.
Yes.
But we love you very much. Thank you for tuning in. We're glad that you have fun. We have fun doing it.
Yes. All right. And everybody out there, stay safe. Take care. We
Internet
love you
mom
all.
and Internet mom and dad love you.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Mwah.